Here is your 0% idle time. I worked for a company that provides a utility truck, and one of the analytics they monitor is how long the truck stays in place with the motor on. The target number was something like 3%. I consistently was stuck in traffic due to my area being changed to the downtown area of my city and naturally raising my idle percent dash. My supervisor began constantly badgering me over the raise of my idle percent, about 10 to 12% higher now. After they decided to give me a written verbal warning, I became the most efficient truck no idler in our branch, and I brought it down to a 0.00 by shutting the truck off at every stop sign, red light, highway, stopped in traffic, in a drive-through, and instantly off when I got to where I was going. Now remember, this is a utility truck that is charging my 2 phones, laptop, tablet and my various equipment's rechargeable batteries. All this juice sucking and no alternator spinning, putting the power back into the truck battery, causing it to die. A lot. Now the rules: the company had made it forbidden for me to jump the truck myself, so I had to call the company and they sent out a tow truck to jump start it for me. I could do it myself anyway and probably would have, but they are writing people up out here for petty shit. And every time I call this tow truck it takes a minimum of 2 hours for it to show up. I began doing this multiple times a day, every day, until they figured my truck was broken. It goes to the shop, checks out, they give it back. I kill it again. They end up giving me an entirely new truck. I start killing it. I repeated this process until they gave me the 3rd truck, and the manager calls me to asks what my daily routine is. I go through the basics and add in the whole stop at red light, engine off, stop in traffic, engine off, etc. And dude goes, "Why the duck are you doing this?" My supervisor wrote me up for my idle time being too high. This is completely ridiculous. He tossed my write-up and I'm guessing talked to the soup, because I never heard a word about idle time again and I quit caring about it. There's my dumb petty story. Thanks for reading. Now to the comments. This month we saved $3 in gas used while idling, and spent $3,000 in towing and jump start fees. Great job, team. Don't worry, the $3K came out of the maintenance department's budget instead. Ouch, this hurts. I do not miss corporate office politics. Just trying to keep your head low and doing your job is miserable when others are playing the politics game. This kind of stupid shit is what comes of managing to metrics. We only look at the speedometer. How the car operates is your concern. Speed as a training video. If your speedometer goes under 50 miles per hour for any reason, you're fired. And that's why I drove through the playground. Officer, now please put the gun away. Man, those poor batteries. There's always a hidden victim in MC posts, LOL. You say poor batteries, I say you are taking food out of the mouth of the battery salesman's kids. You say poor salesman's kids, I say poor buys man's kids. Great story. Perfect MC. OP replied. Thanks, LOL. I never thought I'd find such a specific place to tell this story to. Welcome to Reddit. Man, this has cable company written all over it. Former cable guy. It's definitely not a police department. OP replied. It was USIC, they came into my city and took our only contract away and I lost my job. I took a $5 pay cut when I transferred over to that company. I became an in-field training tech quickly, but they also were never interested in giving me a raise or matching my original pay. I don't work for that shithole anymore. Goes to show, if you start blindly managing by metrics, your employees will start gaming the metrics regardless of how it affects business. Happens every single time. A company I worked for started running metrics on orders fulfilled by promised time and would not account for things we had no control over. So, whenever we were far behind, instead of filling orders, we just started reprocessing them with later promised times. Hours burned away and not a single order filled. Regional pizza which came in whining that we used more cheese and toppings than we were supposed to, so we started doing this dumb amounts and people stopped coming because you got no cheese or toppings, shut down less than a year later. You've just made sense of so many interactions I've had as a customer of a variety of establishments. Mismanagement plus employee malicious compliance equals shitty customer experience. This is an amazing story of what happens when you let the numbers run the business. I'm definitely going to use this next time unnecessary metrics get brought up. Please explain what a written verbal warning is. Isn't it one or the other? OP replied. I asked him the same question. Right there on the sheet it says verbal warning and it's written that you were given the notice to change behavior. I'm like 95% sure most of the people in management for that company aren't even human. Any sort of question of why something is the way it is couldn't be asked, and the rules were absolutely bonkers. This is just one story revolving around one stupid rule. LOL. I might make another story about how I beat their Excel/DCL analytic in a malicious way. Do tell. As a former truck driver, I approve this post. As a current truck driver idling because my S-bar heater is broken and Penske set the engine to not shut down, I likewise approve this post. Dumb in the sense that it took all of that for them to get the message. That took some real dedication on your part. Malicious compliance and petty things seem to be good motivators. At ATT I started building a useless metric keeper to generate reports of our keyboard activity because the metrics on us evolved over time to include having to report any of our breaks and their duration. Anticipating the next step would be measuring code volume, I built a keylogger myself and was prepared to generate a series of useless charts, like letter frequency over spans of time. The petty goal I was building up to would be to distribute this to the 100 or so people working on my floor and then flood the next step up management with useless data to sort through along with the other metrics they were collecting. It went nowhere and was unfinished because enough employee complaints got the metric stuff dialed down. This is how I imagine some AI driver deciding to operate when the company programs it to have 0% idle time. They already make cars that shut off when they stop. I believe the way they work is much like a golf cart. They shut off at a stop, then when you hit the gas and electric motor kicks in to get you going and start the engine. Ducking terrible if you go drive a car and don't know it has this feature. All cars sold in EU have this feature included and turned on by default. You can turn it off, but you have to do it every time you get into your car. I heard a similar story from a guy who drove a turbo diesel semi who also similarly complied after the leeches ignored his advice about letting the turbos get some cooling. You may be surprised that the turbos ended up failing. I have the same issues. So glad winter is here too so I can freeze in my van because I can't use it long enough to heat it up. OP replied. Here in the summer, they wanted the trucks off too and would say stupid shit like, do you have any tips for staying cool in the summer? Like, yeah, you ducking asshats, it's called air conditioning and the trucks have them built in and you're saying we can't use it. If you can't use heat or A/C, then they shouldn't either. Aren't we all one big team, happy family, working together towards a common goal? Sarcasm. It's so interesting to me how leadership in seemingly all fields obsesses over decontextualized data points. I really think the long era of overmanagement needs to die a violent death. That's because the managerial class has never actually had to work any of the jobs they're supposedly supervising, so they come in thinking they're going to be the brilliant, young, new up-and-comer who really shakes things up around here. This is completely ridiculous. I'm glad we agree. My supervisor doesn't. Managers that hyper-focus on the wrong metrics are insane making. Like zoom out once in a while, dude. There's a complex set of variables in the world, you can't judge any job by one stupid metric.